in every single yeshiva. The other one is that it's a very specific one, the one that belongs to the leader of the generation. Rabbi goes on to say that they don't really disagree, but it's basically describing two levels. The Shechina that used to be in the Beis Hamikdash, it's found in Golus in a smaller scale, the Shechina in every shul, in every yeshiva, but it's also found in a larger way, in a bigger scale, in a more revealed way, in one single place. And that place is the yeshiva Beis Rabbeinu Shabbat, which means the yeshiva or the shul of Rab. And the Rebbe brings the source that where the Gemara says that this is considered like the substitute for the actual Beis Hamikdash. Then the Rebbe goes on to say that not only is this place special in the time of Golus, it's also special and after Golus is over. In what way is it special? That when Mashiach will come, all the shuls and all the yeshivas will be transported to Eretz Yisrael, and they'll be attached to the actual building of the Beis Hamikdash, which means they will be considered like an annex of the Beis Hamikdash. Now the Rebbe is going to add a third point. This is on page 28, 29. And that is based on the last thing we learned before, that all the other shuls and all the other yeshivas that existed in the time of Golus will be transported to Yerushalayim, and they'll be actually attached to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. They'll be considered like an additional room, additional chamber to the Beis Hamikdash. In light of this explanation, the small temple assume an even greater quality. Oh, let me go to the Hebrew. That this one shul, which is the strongest substitute for the Beis Hamikdash, has another advantage. And that is, being that Yerushalayim in the future will have all the shuls and yeshivas connected to it, I think this is where we finished off. So that means that our shul in Golus is actually part of the Beis Hamikdash, which mentioned yesterday, 2 days ago, that when you're walking on the floor of this room, actually this floor and this room will be part of the Beis Hamikdash in the future. When you think of it, it's an incredible thought. But now the Rabbi adds another point. When we say that all the shuls and all the yeshivas will be attached to the Beis Hamikdash in the future, they'll also be attached in a way that would be consistent with the kind of shul that it is. In other words, these shuls that the Gemara says that in Babel they were unique, they were the sort of exclusive substitute for the Beis Hamikdash. So they will be connected to the Beis Hamikdash itself, and the other shuls will be connected to them. Got it? In other words, because these Beis Hamikdash, they were more connected to the actual Beis Hamikdash, so when the time comes that they're going to be physically connected, they'll be connected first, and then the other Beis Hamikdash, other shuls and the other yeshivas will be connected to them, but they will physically, geographically be in a closer spot than any other shul to the Beis Hamikdash. Now we'll start page 30, 31. Now the Rebbe is adding another point which makes it unique. How it's also related to something else, to the times of Mashiach. The Seirim is that, to take it a step further, it stands to reason that the future Beis Hamikdash, which will descend from heaven, fully rebuilt and perfected, will first be revealed in the place of Golus, where the Beis Hamikdash traveled and settled, and from there relocate to Yerushalayim. This is also an incredible, novel thought and insight. We know that it says, according to some opinions, and that is that the Beis Hamikdash is already built. It's in Shamayim. Mashiach comes, it'll just come down. So there's another opinion that says, no, we're going to build it physically. And then there's an opinion that explains that actually both are true. Yeah.
Why can't we just like teleport to Yerushalayim? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if Mashiach's time, it's like it's kind of off topic, but like, wouldn't it be cool if like it could just be like instantaneous miracles, like things just like create itself, and we don't need to build it because it's not kind of annoying.
That's why there's such an opinion that we don't have to build. Mashiach will come and wave his hands, and it'll come down. But the Rambam writes that Mashiach will build it. So there are a few opinions that explain how both of these opinions could be reconciled. Well, one way of explaining it is that it's like a neshama and a guf. When we say the Beis Hamikdash will come down from Shemayim, up there's no stone and rocks, and so it's a spiritual structure. What it means is when it comes down here, it'll take on a physical form, but up there it's a spiritual. So those opinions that say that we have to build the physical, it's like saying we have to provide the body, and Hashem will provide the soul. So what it's saying here is, the Rabbi is saying, bringing soon we'll see the source to this, that when Mashiach comes, and that spiritual Beis Hamikdash. So again, even if the physical Beis Hamikdash is going to be built by humans, there still has to be a spiritual one coming down, because that's like the soul to the body. So when Mashiach comes, it's going to come down from Shemayim, not in Yerushalayim. It'll first come down in the place of Golus, where that shul is, and from there it'll travel with us out of Golus to Eretz Yisrael.
But aren't there more than one of this cycle?
But in every generation, there's only one.
So it'll go to like the first generation, the second generation.
If Mashiach would have come in the times when the Jews were in Bavel, in that time, then it would have stopped off from this shul. I'm talking about the times of Gemara, which is later.
Oh.
Then the Beis Hamikdash would have stopped off at the shul of Rav, and from there would go to Eretz Yisrael.
Only going to the current generation.
Right. In each current, not every generation. It's going to come down to the one that in that current generation is the substitute for the Beis Hamikdash. To explain it. Maybe I'll just read it.
Stuff.
What?
Pretty radical.
It's all radical stuff, right? That's why I told you that the people who got all excited, they looked it up and they found that all the stuff is not in the Sikh, it's in Gemara and Mefarshim, mainly Marshot. To explain, even at the very, I'm going to read in English, maybe it'll be easy to follow. Even at the very moment of redemption, the Shekhinah will continue to reside in this main shul, which is the temple of the diaspora, the base of Rabbeinu Shul Bavel, as the Talmud quotes and goes on to say like this. This is from Gemara. Even at the time of their redemption, the Shekhinah will reside with them, like it says, and Hashem your God will bring back your captivity. So the Hebrew word is Vishav. I'm going to switch back to the Hebrew. Vishav Hashem Elokecha Eshvuscha. So the Gemara asks, why does it say Vishav? It should have said Veheshiv. In the proper Hebrew grammar, it's not that Hashem is returning, he's returning us. Vishav Hashem Elokecha means Hashem is returning. Veheshiv means he's returning us. Vishav, Malamedus teaches us, Shekadosh Baruch Hu Shav Imohen. That when we go out of Golus, Hashem will be going out of Golus with us. And therefore it's read like this, and he will return Im Shvuscha, together with your those who held captivity from Golus. Claimer means Dam Berego Achron the Golus, even the last moment of Golus, the Shekhinah is in Golus with us. Shekhinah suffers in Golus with us. Shanas Hamikdash v'Yashav Sham. And where is the Shekhinah? We learned already the Shekhinah is in this substitute Beis Hamikdash. So from there, Hashem will go with all the Bnei Yisrael to the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim to have his Shekhinah rest, and that's where it's going to be forever. But where does it begin? Where does the process begin? Where does the parade begin? It begins in Golus, and it starts in the Shul, which is the substitute for the Beis Hamikdash. Being that Hashem comes out of Golus with us from the miniature, from that substitute Beis Hamikdash, Shenos Hamikdash v'Yashav Sham Nimtza, Shemokum zeh maschila v'nasa gula shchina. It means the process of geula, of the shchina going out of Golus with us. Where does it begin? It begins in that shul. That from there it starts moving. Is galusa b'cholateka v'shleimus shezewi migdash asid. In other words, the future Beis Hamikdash will first be revealed in that shul. That's where the Shekhinah is, and then from there it will proceed to go to Yerushalayim. Why are we saying that? Because until the last moment, that's where the Shekhinah is. The Signa, to say this in different words, just like the return of the Shekhinah is from the place of Golus, so the return of the Beis Hamikdash is also from the place of Golus, because the Beis Hamikdash is the place where the Shekhinah is. That in that place where the Beis Hamikdash is found in the time of Golus, that's where the new Beis Hamikdash will be revealed, and from there it'll go to Yerushalayim. Right. So but basically what the saying is, and this is Rashi and Chumash brings us down, that Hashem Shekhinah is in Golus with us, and when we go out of Golus, Hashem will march out of Golus together with us. So what about the Shekhinah that's in the Beis Hamikdash resting? It'll go out of Golus with us. That's when Hashem goes out, the Shekhinah will go out. So therefore, if we say that this new level of Shekhinah of the Beis Hamikdash will come down, first it'll come down in the Beis Hamikdash in Golus, and from there it'll go to Yerushalayim. Let me just see what the reference is to that. 50. Okay. Sorry, just look and see. Okay, you with me? Now we're on page 31, 32, 33. Perhaps we can now say that what we just mentioned, that the Beis Hamikdash will begin its return, just like Hashem will return from Golus to Geula, from his place in Golus, from the shul that's in Golus, because that's where Shekhinah is. So too, the Beis Hamikdash will also return back to Eretz Yisrael, to Yerushalayim, from there. Now, this is also hinted in the words of the Rambam. What does the Rambam write? Ubana Migdash b'mkayim. Mashiach will build the Beis Hamikdash in its place. L'chayra, ma'u hatzerich lashmi'enu kan shebinyan hamikdash b'mkayim. Why does the Rambam have to let us know that the Beis Hamikdash will be built in its place? What does he emphasize the word in its place? And the Rebbe is saying, it's coming to allude to something. In addition, that it means that the Beis Hamikdash has to actually be built in Yerushalayim. It also alludes to the fact, Gamal Mekayim Shemelech HaMashiach L'Zman HaGolus Lifnei Sharei Zeh Melech Mashiach V'Vadet. That Mekayim means the place of Mashiach, the place where the Shekhinah is during the time of Golus. Dainu Shebi Yosef Golus, while Mashiach is still in Golus, and he's waiting to take Yidden out of Golos. Mashiach builds a shul, and that shul is the shul that is substitute of the Yerushalayim, and that's the preparation for the third Beis Hamikdash. It'll be revealed, and from there, the Eibishter, Bnei Yisrael, and the Shekhinah will all travel out of Golos into Yerushalayim. So, in other words, what it's saying here is that the Rambam alludes to the fact that Mashiach himself will build something in the place of Golus, and that place, that shul, will be the substitute for the Beis Hamikdash, and from there he'll move on to Yerushalayim to build the actual Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. I know that some people who are, looking for just things to sort of laugh at, said, "Oh, in Chabad they don't believe the Beis Hamikdash will be in Yerushalayim; they believe it'll be in Brooklyn." But only someone who just looked at the Sikha and didn't read it would say such a thing. What it says here is clearly that the spiritual Shechina that's in the Beis Hamikdash, the spiritual Beis Hamikdash, will descend in the Beis Hamikdash of Chutz La'aretz, and from there it'll travel to Yerushalayim and settle in Yerushalayim, and that's where the actual Beis Hamikdash will be built. Now, I'd like to look at the footnote, which is footnote number 35. That's in Hebrew. What is it in English? It's different numbers. Let me just check. Or maybe they don't have this in English. No, we do. So look in the English footnote, which is number 60. In light of this explanation, we can appreciate why Maimonides does not use the same exact wording here in Halacha 4 as he used in the beginning of the chapter, where he writes that Mashiach will build the Beis Hamikdash. In other words, the Rambam mentions twice that Mashiach is going to build the Beis Hamikdash. First, in the beginning, where he says Mashiach is a descendant of King David, this and this. Then at the end, he says, and how do we know that Mashiach is Vadai, that he's certainly Mashiach? It's irreversible. That we know when we see that he brings all the Jews from all over the world, and he builds the Beis Hamikdash in its place. So how come the first time he doesn't mention the word in its place? Second time he does. And there is the first time he's not describing the criteria. He's just teaching us what's going to change when Mashiach comes. We're going to have the Beis Hamikdash again. The second time he's describing the criteria. What is the criteria to identify this person as Mashiach? So he writes, part of it is that he will build the Beis Hamikdash in this place, which means he will broaden the substitute Beis Hamikdash in Golus, and that'll prepare the ground that the spiritual Beis Hamikdash comes down, and from there it'll travel to Yerushalayim. I don't want to get you too confused, but is it too complicated to follow what I'm saying? Okay.
Is it clear though, in the information which Joel is dropping on?
So of course, everyone has the option to choose which shul it is, and the Rebbe says that being that the previous Rebbe was the Nasi of the generation, So in our generation, that shul is 770. That's what the whole sikha revolves around. So about 770. Now also, the next footnote is also a very interesting footnote, and that's footnote number, I'm just looking for the English translation. Maybe something they don't have in English. Look at the Hebrew then. Oh, no, it is in English. Number 58. Look at footnote 58. When the Rebbe at that time was speaking about the Persian Gulf War and living in the times of Mashiach, the Rebbe kept quoting the Medrash called Yalkut Shemaini, where it said that Mashiach will stand on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash, and it'll announce that the time of redemption has arrived. So in 58, the Rebbe says, indeed, when the Medrash says, at the time of Mashiach's coming, he will stand on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash and proclaim to the Jewish people, humble ones, the time of redemption has arrived. Why does it say on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash? It is actually referring to the primary small Beis Hamikdash, which is located outside of Eretz Yisrael, and which stands in the stead of the Beis Hamikdash. How do we know that? Maybe it's talking about the actual Beis Hamikdash, and it means he'll be standing on the roof. If it were referring to the actual Beis Hamikdash, which means it already was revealed, it already descended from heaven, and Mashiach is standing on the roof, would be no need for anyone to proclaim the time of redemption has arrived. You see the Beis Hamikdash standing there, so it's there. So being that in the Medrash, very often the Medrash speaks in metaphoric ways, it means the roof of the Beis Hamikdash means the Beis Hamikdash that's outside of Eretz Yisrael. And why call that the roof? You have to look at the footnote to the footnote. On the bottom, there's 2 stars there. This understanding gives a better appreciation of why the Medrash says it will stand on the roof. The rooftop of the Beis Hamikdash was not sanctified. The Rambam writes that even though the whole Beis Hamikdash is holy and has so many halachas, who's allowed to be there, who's not allowed to be there, but the rooftop doesn't have any kedusha. Even though it's the roof over the Beis Hamikdash, where somebody impure would be there, that's fine, but it has no kedusha. So therefore, when the Medrash and is alluding to the Beis Hamikdash that's outside of Israel, it's the same idea. It's a Beis Hamikdash, but it doesn't have kedusha to it because it's outside of Israel, and that's the shul of in Golus, which is the substitute for the Beis Hamikdash. From there will come the announcement, the Gia Man Gulascha. Which means that I was saying that the announcement, the Gia Man Gulascha, was going to come out of 770. That's what it says in different words. Now to explain a little bit better, what's so unique about this shul, page 34, 35. To elaborate on the unique greatness of Beis Rabbeinu. Again, Beis Rabbeinu is the word the Gemara uses, the house of our Rebbe, referring to Rav. Beis Rabbeinu's superiority over all other synagogues and study halls of Babel lies also in the fact that it is the house of Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu means, remember we said it's Rabbeinu HaKadosh or Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. The Nasi Hadar is the leader of all, the teacher of all the exiles, who is everything. What does it mean, who's everything? So there's a Rashi in Chumash, that's the footnote 64, where Rashi says the following. That is, it's a part of the Torah where it talks about when Moshe Rabbeinu sent certain messages. So in one pasuk it says Moshe Rabbeinu sent the messengers. In another pasuk it says the Bnei Yisrael sent the messengers. So Rashi asks, isn't this a contradiction? First it says Moshe sent the messengers. Then it says Bnei Yisrael sent the messengers. So Rashi answers, no, this comes to teach us that if we say Moshe sent the messengers, or we say Bnei Yisrael sent the messengers, it's the same thing. Because the Nasi of the generation is the entire generation. And all the people in the generation, they are one with the Nasi of the generation. So if the people did something, it's as if the Nasi did it. If the Nasi did something, it's as if all the people did it. So this is the quote that Nasi hu hakol. The Nasi is everything. He includes all the people in the generation. To explain that the indwelling of the Shekhinah in the Beis Mikdash takes place primarily within the Jewish people. And it says, they shall make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell in their midst. The wording of this verse is not I shall dwell in its midst within the tabernacle, but rather in their midst, means amongst the Yidden, among the Jewish people. So in exile too, the Shekhinah resides primarily within Bnei Yisrael, as emphasized in the opening statement of the Talmud, which says, come see how beloved Israel is to Hashem. Wherever they are in exile, that's where the Shekhinah is. When all of Israel would come to see the face of Hashem in the place that it was chosen, the Shekhinah resides in all the cities and shuls and city halls, because they host gathering of tens of Yidden. In other words, where is the Shekhinah? Wherever Yidden are. So when the Yidden were in Yerushalayim, the Shekhinah was there. When Yidden are in Galus, the Shekhinah is there. And being that the main place of Galus was Babel, the Shekhinah was in Babel. This is also the reason why synagogues and study halls, that's why it's called a miniature Mikdash. If a Beis HaMikdash, what was the quality of the Beis HaMikdash? Because all the Jews would gather there. That's where the general, all-encompassing Shekhinah was. Mashenkim, but the Knesses, but the Midrashim, Baratzis, Asher Bosham, B'chol Medina, Medina, Ir B'ir, Shabem Esas Nasar Yisrael, Shoyrim is Galilim, Rakchelik V'yochom HaShekhinah. In other words, you know this concept when you talk about a neshama, that is an individual neshama and there's a general neshama. The difference is the individual neshama is every person as an individual. The general neshama is tzaddikim who have neshama that their soul includes everybody else's soul. And when it includes, that means everything that happens to that soul happens to everybody else. And just to bring it up again, because we already spoke about this once, the story in Gemara with Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and he was teaching his students, and he saw that they were dozing off, getting a little bit tired. He wanted to wake them up, and he said to them, tell me, when the Jews were in Galus, when the Jews were in Mitzrayim, women gave birth to 6 babies at once. Wait, but there was one woman that she gave birth to 600,000 babies at once. Who was she? And they really woke up, right? What? Right, so when they asked who it is, he said it was Moshe Rabbeinu's mother, Yocheved. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is equivalent to all, that's Rashi says, the Nasi is everybody, everybody's the Nasi. So when he was born, it's like the birth of 600,000 Jews. But the difference, the way you understand this on the surface, or according to Hasidus and Kabbalah, is on the surface, it means Moshe Rabbeinu's greatness is equivalent to 600,000 people. According to Hasidus and Kabbalah, it's much deeper than that. Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama included in it all 6,000 people. All the neshamas were part of his neshama. He included their neshama. So therefore, whatever happened to him happened to us, because his neshama includes all of us.
Is that also why, like, whenever there were stories of the different, like, Rebbeim, and someone would come in, with, like, something he was struggling with, and the Rebbe would find something himself, like on a smaller scale to correct, help the person correct.
Right. That was an explanation because it's like someplace out there, Rebbe compares it to the sun, that its light shines. So even though there's light in millions of homes, but it's all coming from one source. So there might be a neshama in millions of people, but the neshama that contains all these neshamas, and the source of all these neshamas is the neshama of the nasi of the generation, neshama clones. By the way, there are levels of neshama clones. Remember, we spoke about this, that, for example, there were 12 tribes in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu. Each tribe had their own nasi, and that nasi included, his neshama included all the neshamas of his generation. But Moshe Rabbeinu, no, all the neshamas of his tribe, and the other nasi, all the neshamas of his tribe. But Moshe Rabbeinu, he had all the neshamas of all the tribes, because he was the nasi of all the nasim. So just like this principle applies to neshama, it applies to the Shekhinah. There's a level of Shekhinah that's more specific and local, and there's a level of Shekhinah that includes everything else. So what's unique about the Beis HaMikdash is, over there's a level of Shekhinah that includes sort of the whole world. It says in another place in Tanya that when they brought a carbon to the Beis HaMikdash, which means they took an animal and brought it as a carbon, every single animal in the world became elevated. In the carbon, they also used wine, which is connected to the plant kingdom because it comes from grapes. So all the plant, everything that belongs to the plant kingdom in the entire world became elevated. They also had things that were inanimate, like salt. So all the things in the world that are inanimate, they become elevated. Which means even though I brought a very specific personal carbon to the Beis HaMikdash, but every carbon of the Beis HaMikdash, because it's the Beis HaMikdash, which is all inclusive, it includes and has an effect on the Jew wherever he may be. So that's because in the Beis HaMikdash, the level of Shekhinah is the kind of level that includes all the life force and all the life flow in the entire world. Sometimes Beis HaMikdash is referred to as the heart. The heart has in it and is the source of the life flow of the entire body. God forbid something happens there, the whole body is going to be lacking and missing. So therefore, the Rebbe is saying the advantage of the Beis HaMikdash is because that's where Yidden are gathered together in the biggest numbers. And because of that, then Hashem's presence is there in a more general way that includes all the details. So if that's the idea, and that's what makes the Beis HaMikdash unique, because that's where all the Jews come, the same could be applied to the idea of the house of the Nasi. Yeshleimar, Shabbos Shel Nasi Ader, Kol Ader, while there Beduma, Talpias is another name for the Beis HaMikdash. Why is it called Talpias? It means Tail Shekol Pias Peinim. It's like again, the word tail in this context means a building that includes that all the mouths turn to that. People come there to daven. People come there. So in other words, because everyone comes there, that's why it has a higher level of kedusha. The Shekhinah that's in the Beis HaMikdash is there as a result of the fact that all the Yidden are there. So that's the case, and with a Nasi. A Nasi is a person that everybody's connected to him, and people come to him, and therefore, because there's more Yidden, therefore in his shul, there'll be a different level of Shekhinah. Another reason why the shul of the Nasi is the shul that's substitute for the Beis HaMikdash. Ika Milas Beis Rabbeinu Shabbat Benogeya Geula. It says in the word Rabbeinu Nasi Hader. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was the Nasi of the generation, but he was also Mashiach of the generation. Moshe Rabbeinu, he was also the Nasi, and he was also the Redeemer of that generation. Kidu, as it's known, שבכל דור ישנו אחד הרואים מצדקוסת liyos goyel. Every generation there's somebody that is worthy because of his righteousness to be the goyel, to be the redeemer. Ukishagi azman, when the right time comes, yigal elov Hashem Yisbarach. Hashem will reveal himself to that person or about that person and will send him on the shlichah that he has to take given out of Galus. I guess the idea is that there's a person, there's no doubt, everyone agrees there has to be somebody in the generation that's going to take us out of Galus. Who is that person? So the Rebbe is saying something here, which is, I think there's no source for this, the Rebbe's own source. And that is that in every generation, whoever is the Nasi of the generation, that person is going to be the Mashiach of the generation. Why? Because Mashiach is the person that his neshama includes all the neshamas in the generation. And that's what a Nasi is. And that's why the Gemara says that it's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi will be the Mashiach of his generation. And the same with other people that were pointed to, is because they were the Nasi of their generation. Mistaber Leimar, Shu Nasi Ader. See, this is the Rebbe's words. In every generation, there's someone that is worthy because of his righteousness. So there was a time in history where there was actually an official position. Somebody was appointed as the Nasi of the generation. Today, there's no official position. Let's say in the times of the Rambam, there's no official title that he was appointed to and say he is the leader of the generation, or the same with Rashi. But if we would assume that he is that person, that as far as Hashem knows, he's the leader of the generation, then he's also the Mashiach of the generation, and so on. In fact, the Gemara says, Omar Rav said, In Minchayahu, if Mashiach is amongst those that are living now, then who is he? Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Rabbi quotes Rashi. If Mashiach is among those that are living now, if he's among those that passed away, then he's Daniel. But if among those that are living now, then it's Rabbeinu HaKadosh. And who was he? The Nasi Hadar. The Rebbe says we see that whoever is the Nasi Hadar, that person is also the Mashiach Shabbat. Come then, it would have been the previous Rebbe, because he's the Nasi Hadar, so he's I'm talking. Everybody, any questions? No. Okay.
But I do have a question actually.
Yeah.
So, so this idea that not to hit the word